Hello, bienvenue. It's time for more asexual reviewed romance. Bridgerton has been all the rage these days, especially with the release of the second season about a month ago. There's just something that we love about historical romance. I call it the Austen effect. Because really, we owe this love of witty Regency-era love stories to Jane Austen. To this day, Pride and Prejudice is still one of my favorite books. Funny how something like Pride and Prejudice is held up by literary scholars as one of the most loved books, but when it comes to modern romantic dramas, the genre is shoved into the category of casual escapism for the layman, or in this case, laywoman, and again throughout university. Sugar-coated dismissive condescension, and it pisses me off. I've been on this rant before, and I'll probably go on it again in the future, because romance as a genre offers so much more than anyone ever gives it credit for. Today we're talking Bridgerton, a historical romance drama set in the same Regency era as Pride and Prejudice. I've never actually read the novels, but I did watch the show recently, if 3 weeks ago can be considered recently. But there's a lot to talk about race, gender, and sexuality. The show went for a colorblind approach to casting, which could have been an amazing thing, nobility of all races. But then they went and ruined it by adding in explanatory backstory. They couldn't just let it be pure escapism. Now, let me explain what I mean. One of my favorite adaptations is Kenneth Branagh's Much Ado About Nothing. The cast from a historical and racial standpoint makes absolutely no sense. It was cast by whoever was best for that part. This means that Denzel Washington and Keanu Reeves play brothers. If Bridgerton wanted to talk about race, they should have taken it head on instead of trying to explain it away. More shows and media need to talk about this growing racial divide we have in the world. But instead, they took this wishy-washy approach, like they were saying, hey look, we're making an effort, but we don't want to commit. Race isn't without consequence in the world of Bridgerton, but the show still manages to undermine its attempts to erase the discrimination. We still get these vague black characters that are there to support the white stories. The problem is that an escapist colorblind fantasy can't exist in a world that is still white privilege. The racial acknowledgement is superficial at best. It brings up interesting questions, but nothing is ever actually explored. But let's be honest, the whole reason this show is so extremely popular is because it's smut heaven, which is kind of what bothered me about it the most. I mean, we have characters in a very deep, serious conversation, and suddenly they're fucking on the stairs. But that's exactly why we're here. This isn't asexual reviewed romance for no reason. I have an oddly pragmatic and inquisitive view of sex. And here's my conclusion. This show is meant to titillate, I think. I actually really enjoyed the story and plot of season 1. It was intriguing, and the characters were charming. But I found the second season less compelling. Anthony's love triangle of duty and heart wasn't as interesting as Daphne's struggle for a place in what's clearly a man's world. And surprisingly, the sex actually served a purpose. Sometimes. And that's what I really enjoyed. The real issues that are still sadly faced by women today. Not only in terms of sexuality, but women's rights. Which is an even more sensitive topic now, especially with women's rights on the chopping block down in the US. Women are put down for any form of sexual liberation or expression. Women across the globe are still kept in the complete dark about their own bodies, their lives, their futures. Imagine that it's your wedding night and suddenly, no, you know what, we're not actually going to go there. Let's just leave it at marital rape is still a terrifyingly real issue, along with genital mutilation. And this is even in supposedly forward-thinking Western countries. We as women still have no autonomy over our own bodies. Bridgerton just illustrates how very little progress has been made in the last few hundred years. I mean, when you think about it, we're really not that far out from the Bridgerton era. And it's just a little too close to home.
Still your mind. I will find out what he is asking of me and return immediately.
He is asking of you to decide which one of us should live, me or the baby. You kill the baby, you save the mother. You cut the mother, you save the child. It is not your choice to make, it is mine.
It is his lordship's choice.
Edmund is his lordship. The choice is Edmund's. It can only be Edmund's because he loved me. He loved me so much this wouldn't even be a conversation. It was the kind of love. The answer. This choice is obvious. Oh. I should not have to explain this to anyone. Edmund should be here. Ah!
Do what she wants.
Your lordship.
Whatever she chooses.
The show itself is fun and enchanting with just a little bit of mystery. It uses that gossip narrator style like Gossip Girl, who's Lady Whistledown, who everybody hates and loves and wants to know who they are. Look, this show is not for the historical purist, it's pure escapism. But at the same time, human history makes it very difficult to create historical escapism. So should accuracy matter in a fantasy? Will the burden of true historical and racial awareness ruin the light fun? I'd like to think not. I'd like to see both sides. We need to talk about the issues in creative, engaging ways, but at the same time, we still want to disappear into a daydream in fantasy with our characters. So this is why I sit on the sidelines, unable to pick a side, mostly because Bridgerton couldn't. Should it have gone full-on escapism, or should it have stuck to very serious commentary? Regardless, however you look at it, it's left wanting. But we're entertained as long as we don't look too deeply.